I think it's finally happening. And I'm talking about the first major growth phase coming into full effect for NIO. And I think we will see this reflected in the deliveries, which is why I wanted to start here and talk about this. And then we're going to move through to a couple of things. And one of the things that I think NIO has actually positioned and done brilliantly is the way they've set up and operated the premium brand and now followed in with Onvo, their second brand. But first, let's start here with the deliveries. Now, this is a playlist that I've got on the channel where I've been tracking these deliveries for quite a while. What have I done? 25 videos on these. So I guess that's a couple years worth of data anyway. But I've done even more of the weekly numbers. Now, the weekly numbers don't come from NIO, but they do serve to give us an indicator of how NIO is doing. And so, for example, in April, I wasn't terribly shocked that this was such a good number from NIO because we had kind of been tracking things. And now early in May, we've got strong numbers again on the weeklies. And so I think we're going to see a number that's in line with or bigger than this December number of 18,000 or more in May. Now, with that happening, I also think this is a nod in the direction of NIO becoming recognized. And this is the full-on brand awareness, the market awareness that I've been waiting for and watching for. The first major growth phase of NIO. I think we will get the validation on this in June and July, because at that point, if the numbers maintain a 15,000 to let's say 20,000 range on the monthly side of things for NIO with the premium brand, that's during a time frame where people could also have ordered Onvo, which is the first option that NIO has come out with from their sub-brand Onvo, the L60. More on that in a little bit. But if we see these numbers stay up the way they are, 15 to 20,000, let's call it, for the main brand, the NIO brand, that's going to be the validation through June, July. I think that tells me that we are seeing NIO finally being recognized within China, which is the most important market for NIO. I've always kind of thought that, felt that, maintained that. And there are a couple of things I want to break down now that I think are relevant and also in play. I've talked about it a little bit before, but this is just in the month of April. For example, NIO is moving up the rankings with their pure BEV sales. Now, this is all brands. This isn't just the high-end price range. So let's talk about that one a little bit. As you can see, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and Audi are selling a lot of ICE or gas vehicles, again, represented by the blue. The green represents their pure BEV sales, battery electric vehicle sales, not so many. And this also is why I really wouldn't be surprised. I won't be shocked if we end up getting an announcement that Mercedes and NIO are going to partner and come out with a battery swappable model that would be a Mercedes brand of the future. That just wouldn't shock me. It would make sense for Mercedes-Benz, because then they would maintain their brand power, but give another option to their users, their buyers, their customers. And so I just won't be shocked when we see things like that happen. And that's kind of my take. And also why I don't talk more frequently about the partnerships is I just think it benefits the partners to not just compete against NIO, but actually to partner with NIO. And this is one of the things that makes NIO the unicorn that I believe it is. We've never seen a company like this. The guy running the company has a different vision, a different view. He sees the future like few can. And so with that, I enjoy, it's one of the reasons I picked the company. I enjoyed trying to figure out what's in his head and where all the dots are that he's connecting. So, but coming back to this point now of these sales, we're talking about over 50,000, almost 50,000 and 45,000 for those German brands that NIO is competing with. And the vast majority of those sales for those brands are not EV sales. In the future in China, they will be EV sales. So NIO does not need to dominate. They don't even need to outsell any of those brands. They just need to take a piece of that remaining market share that hasn't moved over from gas to EV yet. And I think that's very, very doable. And I do think we're going to get, as I said, more validation on this happening and NIO being recognized, acknowledged. This is the brand and the market awareness that I was looking for. So I think in these next few months, we'll get that validated. I've got the NIO site pulled up because I remember seeing a lot of folks frustrated that NIO was doing so many different things. And one of the things I remember people being frustrated about and talking about was how many models NIO offered. But as a premium brand, I thought it was more important to have more options available because you're asking people to spend a lot of money. And if you're providing legitimate branding, service, product that is high end, that is truly premium, then the issue is not necessarily having more models, it's getting the brand recognized so that you can then scale and sell a lot of all the models, that sort of thing. So I liked the fact that NIO has an 8 model lineup. One of the differences from last year to this year, and I'm going to jump back over now to the playlist because it's easy to see. If we go back, NIO had their biggest month ever was in July of 2023 on the delivery side of things. They were over 20,000, and then they went with over 19,000 in August, over 15,000 in September, and they maintained 15,000 or above until the end of the year. And then the first quarter of 2024 was where things were. I expected things to be basically at the worst point on the delivery side for NIO. The nice thing was the second quarter of 2023 was the weak quarter. So a faster cadence and a better basically time frame on the refresh and the upgrades, and all the models now being available, all 8 of the premium brand models being available. It sets things up time frame wise very nicely because now NIO is having these better sales. I think we'll see that continue to trend. But what gets really fascinating is now I love how NIO is coming out with their first sub brand, and they're only offering one model, the L60, at least initially. But I like that they have 8 available on the premium side and now coming into the mass market. I think this also gives them such an edge and advantage over everyone else because NIO will not only have battery swappable vehicles and be the leader as far as that goes, the pioneer, the first into the space on the premium side, but also mass market. And so as everyone else is partnering with NIO, and I love, this is one of the brilliant moves and points about Mr. EQ, as I call him, because his emotional quotient is so high. William Lee, his IQ is also very high, but this guy sees things, and his willingness to partner with folks means that, yes, they can compete with brands, but they can also work with brands and make money together. It's a no-brainer if you ask me, but a lot of people just don't get that he's so different in the way that he looks at things. And I think that is one of the reasons, frankly, that some of the shorts have gotten away with being able to short this thing, and the short thesis has remained in play. And I think it can remain in play until NIO surprises with profitability, which shouldn't be too far off, by the way. But if you want to talk stock price, don't worry. I've got a special video that I'm going to do, and I'll give you a hint. The shorts are going to hate it because I'm going to point some things out, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm already looking forward to doing it. So I'll come back with that video, but I wanted to talk a little bit about how I'm so happy now to have this confidence, seeing that we could get a new record on the delivery side in May. And then if June, July, and that forward, we basically see a 15 to 20,000 monthly range on the sales for NIO. It's just setting the tone for when September deliveries come in with the L60, the boost that could give. I think it's going to be a very fun ride ahead for those of us. And I've joked about it before. I've referenced it before. I've said, if you're on this NIO train with me, you better get your seatbelt fastened because we're going for a ride. Well, it's been a bit more like a roller coaster the last few years, especially with the sell-off of the stock price and how rough things have been with respect to that. But fundamentally, this company is stronger than ever. And I'm just very, very excited to see how these deliveries shape up. And if they don't kind of validate what I'm thinking and talking about right now, and that is that we are in full on in the first major growth phase for NIO, which is market awareness. And I think that will carry over beautifully into Europe. I think that will be the next couple of years, I would say, I think becomes a pivotal point where NIO is going to get that recognition across Europe. But I think China needed to be first. It, remains the most important market in my mind. And so I'm glad that things are kind of lining up the way they are. In some respects, this has been really hard to call because of timeframes. But if it meant waiting longer for better branding and more potential profits, then for me, it's a no-brainer. I'm fine waiting. This has always been a long term, and it's easier than trying to guess on time frame. It's easier for me to reference, and that's why I keep it at the bottom of the screen. The first 3 major growth phases, the market awareness, of course, is the one I'm talking about and focusing on in this video. Profitability, of course, is the second one, and that I think we could see in 2024. So if not, let's say it's 2025 or even 2026, well, then that market awareness, the branding, everything will be even further advanced in the markets like, say, Europe. And what does the Middle East look like at that point? That also could get very interesting. And finally, the third major growth phase that, as I identified it a few years ago, BaaS, battery as a service. I wanted to see what this would look like after NIO had 1 million cumulative sales or deliveries, over the course of time. And they've just passed 500,000. So we've got a little ways to go on that one. But I think these first 3 growth phases are going to align very nicely. And I really hope, knock on wood, I hope that we are truly seeing this full-on adoption of the brand and the market awareness in China for NIO. I think we'll get that validation on the delivery side of things. So hit the like, subscribe if you haven't been here before. Thanks for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed the content. And yes, please come back for the upcoming video where I'm going to talk about the NIO short stuff. It's going to be a fun one. Have a great day. Thanks. I'll see you all again very soon.